The field is set, and Alabama draws a 2 seed.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We want to thank FanDuel for always being a part of our lives because they're awesome. And I want to thank you, everydayers, for being here every day. Thank you, newbies, for being here today. And thank everybody for making us your first listen every day. Jimmy, the field is set. Alabama, they get a 2 seed in the East. Duke is the 1 seed in that particular field. Overall, I really like the bracket. It's going to be difficult. It's because, it's the NCAA tournament. It's going to be bracket. It's going to be difficult. I mean, it is what it is. But we draw Robert Morris in our first game. Little side note here. How about this stat from one of our friends? Robert Morris is one of only 2 men to sign the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Articles of Confederation. Roger Sherman of Connecticut was the other, and he also signed the Continental Association and the 1774 Petition to the King. That guy was passing out signatures more than Pete Rose.
He was doing NIL work before anyone else.
Yeah. So what do you think? I look at this and this bracket, and the first thing I think, look, everybody's been saying Wisconsin, slow, and Wisconsin's on our side of the bracket. But I think Wisconsin's been a little more up-tempo than they normally have. I'm just going to have to look into that a little bit more.
It's the highest scoring Wisconsin team in like 50 years.
Yeah. Today, notwithstanding, like watching Michigan and Wisconsin was literally, it was like watching your best friend get a root canal, not you getting one. It was awful. But I'll say this, we start off with Robert Morris, a team that I think that they are a little bit slow tempo. Then we potentially play the St. Mary's team, or we could play Vandy, but we play a St. Mary's team. They're the 7 seed. Let's assume they move on, and they are slow as pond water. So it's an interesting draw. We certainly want Grant Hill back. We feel better about Grant Nelson. Grant Hills.
Nice.
We would love to have Grant Hill.
It would be nice to get Grant Hill, even at this current age.
At this age,
I would take Grant Hill.
I mean, Grant Nelson.
Happy about that.
I'm just glad I didn't say like General Grant or something. Anyway, I'm excited.
Lou Grant, you 70s fans.
I'm excited. This is huge. This is history. And I know if you're an Alabama fan, you're like, well, Auburn got the number 1 overall seed. Kudos to Auburn. They deserved it. I said this. I put a tweet out there and said, look, if you were doing, people love to say that, well, how are you playing down the stretch? I've always thought that's a stupid way to do it. I think the whole season should matter. But if you're doing it how you play down the stretch, Florida should have been the number 1 overall seed. If you're doing it body of work, it's clearly Auburn.
And I was a strong proponent of Duke because I've been knocked out by how well Duke played without Cooper Flagg. I mean, that's impressed the heck out of me because I thought, gosh, you lose a player of that caliber and and all they did was just, keep on winning even without him. I think what stands out to me is definitely the pace of play tempo thing. Now, I am not one of these conspiracy theorists. I'm sure some Alabama fans are going to latch on to, the committee's doing all they can to match up Alabama with teams that all play this different style that's our kryptonite or something. That's just crazy. I don't believe any of that for a single second. I think they legitimately try to seed the team straight up as well as they can. And just by coincidence, Alabama may end up playing, maybe, barring upsets, Alabama would play 3 teams in a row that play similarly. A slow tempo, defense first. It's going to be a kind of a battle in the paint with all of these teams. And you can say that Alabama struggles against that. I don't believe that. I think Alabama struggles some of the time against some opponents that play that style. but you can go through Alabama's, what have they played now, 33 games. You can go through those 33 games and find instances where Alabama won and played well against slow tempo teams that don't score much. But boy, St. Mary's in particular, Luke, I'll be bringing it up constantly. St. Mary's played 2 games this year, Luke, and held their opponent in the 30s twice. Once you just go, oh, that's just weird. They did it twice.
And one of them was USC. It's not like they did it to a 2A
Correct.
basketball program. They did it to a Big Ten basketball. Now, USC's not in the tournament. They're not very good, but still, they are a Power 4 conference team, and they have tradition, and they held them to the 30s. So, yeah, and it's going to be super interesting. Now, I'll say this. Here's where things work out well for Alabama. First of all, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm thankful in a way we didn't play today. I'm not trying to sugarcoat a bad loss. We got our doors blown off yesterday, but I'm sort of thankful because I watched that game today and I was thinking, if we had somehow beaten Florida miraculously, Tennessee probably would have beaten us into the court. And if not won, they would have at least physically imposed their will on us, and we could be even more banged up. Luckily, we also play on Friday. I think that's good.
I agree. I should have mentioned that earlier.
On Friday.
That's a great. That may be the number one. Boy, did we get lucky sort of thing. I think that extra day of rest is huge. Could be for Grant Nelson, as we know, we're still anxiously awaiting information on Grant. I think there's some reason to be optimistic about Grant, but we won't know for sure until tomorrow. And I do think injuries, Luke, tonight is not the time for a season review. But to me, a season review begins and ends with Alabama's injury situation. All the expectations that Alabama had going into the year, potential preseason number 1, potential national champion, that was all based on Alabama's 13-man roster, right? I mean, that roster is why. It's the roster. It's not anything else. And then what's happened to the roster? You redshirt one guy, then you got a redshirt Houston Mount because of the knee. Then you lose Latrell Wrightsell for the year, who's one of the best shooters in the country. Then you deal with Darion Reed just not being around for the vast majority of the SEC season, and his availability is up in the air. And now even Grant Nelson's hurt. If all that had happened this summer, Alabama wouldn't have had these expectations that are out there. Fans just have to, and the media, fans and the media have to adjust when these injury situations happen. The team changes, therefore the expectation should change. But they don't, for whatever reason, in modern society, Luke. I think we just set our expectations before the season, and anything that happens, we just pretend like it's not a thing. But it's a huge thing. It's everything. It's not the same roster. And I do think that's sort of the story of the year for Alabama. But let's see if Grant Nelson is healthy enough to play next weekend, Luke. Alabama will be favored to beat Robert Morris, and Alabama will be favored to beat St. Mary's. No question. And Alabama should win those games, though I think both matchups, particularly St. Mary's, would be difficult. Of course it's difficult. It's the NCAA tournament.
How about this stat that I just got from my buddy Michael Southern with Tide Hoops History? Out of the 33 games Alabama played, 25 of them were against teams in the NCAA tournament. And the Crimson Tide ended with 13 straight games against tournament-bound programs. Now, of course, you ended 13 straight games because a lot of those were in conference. But what you also have to remember, LSU, South Carolina, who else didn't make the tournament from the SEC? Help me out, Jimmy.
Just those two, right?
Yeah, that's right. Just those two. And we didn't play them twice. We played them once each. Yeah. And so it goes down as the toughest schedule in history. According to Ken Palm, and look, I agree. We're battle tested. We're also battle hurt. So it works both ways a little bit. But look, we get a little extra rest. I'll say this. You mentioned Grant Nelson again, that they were showing Alabama's reaction somewhere on Twitter, not the ESPN thing. And Grant Nelson was sitting there. His knee had no brace. His knee had no bandage. His knee had no knife sticking out of it.
It was present.
He had present. 2 knees. It was there. 2 knees. It wasn't blurred out, like some kind of Cinemax.
Pixelated.
Yeah. It wasn't pixelated. Nothing like that. So let's hope that Grant Hill's going to be okay. This
Grant Nelson did it again.
I did it
It's
again.
fascinating. It's fascinating, though, that you did. It's fascinating. I think you're holding Grant Nelson in some high esteem there. It's not like that's just some random name of some Hollywood guy. It's just like one of the better basketball players I've ever seen in my lifetime when he was healthy. Grant Hill also fighting injury issues throughout his career.
That is. He also, Michael Southern also said he is fearful of a torn meniscus, but hopes he's wrong. I disagree. I don't think that's what it is. I don't think. I'm not a doctor. I know y'all are shocked, but I feel more optimistic. It could be something even worse. It could be nothing. So let's just see before we all panic. He's seeing a specialist tomorrow, and we can all begin to wring our hands at that juncture. All right, I got to tell you guys about a new sponsor here, and that's Supply House. We do appreciate Supply House so much. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades at Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done correctly. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you will find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service so that you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like the dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are ready, and they're already taking advantage of what's happening over at Supply House, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com because it's awesome. Now I want to tell you about WayFair. WayFair's got just what you need. You already know that. Your home should reflect your style, and with WayFair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, WayFair has everything you need in one place. WayFair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece, no matter your space, budget, whatever it is. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, WayFair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I guarantee it. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just for your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. WayFair, every style, every home. We will jump back into this. Is going to be a 2-segment thing, by the way. This is our last segment today. We will be back tomorrow morning talking more about this. We'll have more on Robert Morris, all that stuff. Hopefully, we'll have some times in, some tip-off times. They should be announced soon. Also, shout out to the women who will be announced. They will make the NCAA tournament today. That's awesome. Happy for them. And that will be announced here, at some point. We will talk about that tomorrow, and we'll also see if the baseball team wins again. They were on the verge of sweeping Texas A&M at Texas A&M. That's pretty cool. But I want to talk a little bit of neat things about this bracket. Alabama is up 1-0 in the 7th, by the way, on A&M. I think that they always say they don't do this, but I'm 100% convinced they do things like this on purpose. Louisville is an 8 seed in Lexington, potentially playing Auburn in the second round, is sort of their way of saying, Auburn, you are the number 1 seed. You've earned it, but you've been playing like junk down the stretch, so we're going to make you earn it a little more here in the tournament, because really we all think Florida is the best team in the country right now. And let me just give you a few other things. St. John's playing in Providence, Rhode Island. We all know that Rick Pitino was at Providence at one time because he broke my heart with Billy the Kid, by the way, in Louisville, which is now weird. That just dawned on me. But St. John's gets to play in Providence. You think that crowd's going to be going nuts for St. John's there? The SEC gets 14 teams in, which is, shatters the record. And yeah, just some cool stuff like that. I haven't looked at the whole bracket because I've been so excited about Bama, but yeah, I think all those things are pretty little neat factoids.
No doubt, and the SEC getting in 14 is probably the story of the brackets. And what I'm going to dislike is SEC teams playing each other early in the tournament. I won't like that. I mean, obviously, it can't be helped if SEC teams advance; they'll eventually bump into one another. But second round SEC versus SEC, I won't be a big fan of. But I do think that the SEC is obviously going to do well. There's 14 teams, Florida playing extremely well, Alabama dangerous, Auburn dangerous, Tennessee dangerous for sure. I think other teams to watch. I like Mississippi State. They play Baylor and then potentially Duke. That'll be Duke's first matchup against a ranked, really good team in a while. Obviously, I know they played Louisville today. I think that was their first game against a ranked team in a while. I'm telling you, Mississippi State's dangerous. Everybody in the SEC is. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But Alabama versus Robert Morris versus a slow tempo play defense first team. Maybe, Luke, playing three teams like that all in a row and prepping for that type of play, maybe that's helpful to Alabama. That, hey, you're not seeing wildly different styles potentially in your first three games. You're seeing similar styles. Maybe that's helpful, even though it's a type of tempo that you could expect Alabama could have some degree of difficulty with. Alabama wants to play a game where the final score is something like 100-90. And these three teams, Robert Morris, St. Mary's, and Wisconsin, who would be the favorites to advance, don't play games in 100 points and 90 points. And they want games in the 80s at best. Even in the 70s and 60s is where they're most comfortable. So that's the challenge for Alabama. But you can argue that, hey, this is a little bit of a break. You're going to see some similar styles.
Kenneth Cannon brings up a great point, and I meant to mention this, that North Carolina getting in is a story.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
It doesn't look good because their athletic director is on the committee or whatever, and I know they're supposed to leave the room and whatever. But it doesn't look good. I'm not totally against it because I'll say, y'all know how I am. I'd rather have more North Carolinas and fewer St. Francis PAs. I know some other people the other way. But I look at St. Francis getting in with a losing record. I'm like, I just don't like that. They stole a bid from somebody who played a much tougher schedule. But say la vie. Texas getting in also when Lenardi and just about everybody else had them out. Very interesting. Indiana didn't get in, which I think is correct. I was Googling, we're doing this so quickly after the bracket. I don't know if anybody's even had time to talk about who got snubbed. Usually we can talk about who got snubbed from an SEC perspective, but you couldn't put South Carolina and LSU in. They stunk.
They did.
But everybody else was good. I think everybody else should be there. I was watching it with my daughter, trying to explain to her, trying to explain to an 8-year-old who she loves basketball now, but trying to explain to her, after we beat Auburn in the regular season, she's like, yeah, we beat Auburn. Did we win it? And I was like, yeah, we won it. But, now we have to play a tournament next week. Okay. And then we beat Kentucky and she was thrilled. And then we lose to Florida. She's like, oh, man. And I said, no, we got a whole nother. She goes, you got another tournament? And then they started putting the brackets up and she goes, okay, well, Auburn's won. Where are we? And I said, well, we'll be 2 in another one. She goes, how many teams?
How many?
68. She goes, 68. What's wrong with them? I was like, yeah, that's what I've been saying. So it's in the book.
And see, 8-year-old daughter, it's really not a tournament so much as it is 4 tournaments. It's four tournaments. And then when you win that tournament, you get to play in the final 4-team tournament. I guess you probably didn't go that far.
I didn't get that far. In fact, I was sort of like, honey, I love you, but shut your yapper. I'm trying to figure out where Alabama's playing. It is weird that Alabama's playing in Cleveland. Factoid, I think it was 2005. I went to the Alabama game in Cleveland. I think it was 05. It may have been 04. I can't remember. Or was it? Shoot. What year was it that we lost to Bruce Pearl in Cleveland?
I want to say something like 01.
It may have been 02.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
It may have been the year we won the SEC.
Yeah, 02. That sounds about right. So 01 or 02.
No, because 02 we were a 2 seed. Well, that was a 2 seed, wasn't it? Shoot, I don't remember. No, we was a 5-12 when we lost that game.
Do know that we're a 2 seed or higher for only the fifth time, I think, in school, fifth time in school history, and 3 of the 5 are under an 8, which is nuts.
Yeah, that is nuts. And so that's another thing. If anybody out there, and surely to God, people have gotten over Florida by now, that is the beautiful thing of losing in the SEC tournament. If you're in the tournament on Sunday, by the time you get your bracket, you've forgotten about it. Heck, people have forgotten Florida won the SEC tournament already. I mean, I'm not trying to shortchange what Florida did. Florida's awesome, and they are the best team in the country right now. I'm just saying, And
don't diminish advancing in this tournament. Don't diminish it. Like,
I don't care.
We're favored. You're favored. You're a higher seed. You should win. Yeah, true. But it's difficult. This tournament has a massive history of upsets. Why? Because everyone in this tournament is good. Everyone is capable. Auburn, we see how good they are this year. They lost in the first round to Yale last year. Now A&M, by the way, from the SEC, burdened with playing Yale in round 1 this year. Don't diminish a win in the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of teams that would like to trade places with you.
Hey, let's also say this. It's not lost on me that if we were to be fortunate enough, and it would be fortune, and it would be also hard work, but some fortune, that we make it to the Final Four, we don't have to play Auburn or Florida until the championship game. So, I mean, that's not nothing. That's not nothing.
That is something. It's a
I'm
something.
going to say this. I think Alabama is among, even though they got whipped yesterday, I know, and there'll be some people who just want, and Gelato says Elite 8 might be the ceiling. Okay.
That would be
what a ceiling.
It would be
what a fantastic ceiling.
It would be the 3rd time in the history of Alabama basketball, just the 3rd time, I think, to advance to the Elite 8.
I mean, so again, I'm not mad that people are mad we got blown out yesterday. I'm mad that people are saying things like, Nate Oats got to get taller guards. Nate Oats got to do. Nate Oats is kicking chicken, man. Let Nate Oats cook. This isn't Russell Wilson cooking with the, like the Swedish chef, like, doo-doo-doo. It's not like that. He is cooking. He is Bobby Flay next to that English guy on Kitchen Nightmares. That's what he is. What's that guy's name?
I don't know. I don't watch
that.
I watch ESPN.
Well, if ESPN does any more NBA contracts, they're going to have cooking contests because that's all they can afford.
Then I'll watch the cooking contest. No, you get rid of Nate Oats, by the way, you'd have, to my math, about 330 job offers tomorrow, to say nothing of the NBA, maybe about 6 or 8 more from them.
Gelato says, did Texas make it? Yes, they did. Gelato. What a name. I love Gelato, by the way. Gelato is so underrated. Oh, God, it's so good.
Gelato is
but Texas did make it. In Texas, let's see. ESPN's got, I don't know where they're first. Oh, here it is. Texas plays Xavier in the first 4.
First 4.
Again, that's another thing, by the way, that I hate. When the first 4 should just be the 8 worst teams. That's what it should be.
I agree 1,000,000%. The first 4 should be the 16 seeds, the 15s and 16s playing against each other, the quote worst of the mid-major champions. They should be playing it. You shouldn't have an 11 or 12 seed or higher playing it in the first 4. It just makes no sense to me at all. I've always hated it. Chef Ramsey.
Gordon Ramsay. And it's messed up because I love his shows, and I love the fact he scares me to death.
Yeah, he's the mean guy, right?
Oh God, when he does
he's the Simon Cowell of
Hell's Kitchen. When he does Hell's Kitchen, like he starts yelling at those people, and like I get up and just start cooking stuff. I'm like, God, I gotta. I'm dicing, I'm chopping. I mean, he scares me to death.
I think I'll stick with ESPN then.
Yeah. All right, look, that's going to do it for this abbreviated pod. We will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody, and roll bracket.
Roll Tide. Beat Robert Morris.